Well, hello there, and welcome to the Poetry of Healing show. And I am so happy that you stopped by. I am Dr. Paulina Van, the host of the show, and I hope you enjoyed the new intro. And I'll give credits to the film creator and the music creator at the end of the show. So today's show is all about Black Superwoman syndrome. So, are you constantly feeling overwhelmed, overcommitted, meeting others' needs instead of your own? You don't ask for help because you believe it's your duty, obligation, or you can do it better than anyone else. So, I ask you to stay and join my guest and I for an insightful, enriching, and hopefully motivating discussion about Black Superwoman syndrome, the realities, and the remedies. So I'd like to begin as we normally do, and we're going to start this season out with centering, and it's to help us to focus and collect our energy for this time together. It's a time for you, a gift to yourself. So today I invite you to participate in heart math focused breathing. We haven't done it in a while. And so let me just give us some background music just to set the tone. I'll turn it down a little bit. So here we go. It's always an invitation. And I ask that you lower your gaze or close your eyes and just take time to focus on the natural rhythm of your breathing. And the centering will take about 1 minute. Just focus on the natural rhythm of your breathing, your chest rising and falling, or your belly rising and falling. And it might help with this breathing. So we're going to use our breath to activate our heart intelligence to relax us. So I ask you to put your right hand over your left chest to help you focus on your heart. And with your gaze lowered or eyes closed, take a nice, slow, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now this time, I'd like you to focus on your heart, which is in the left part of your chest, where your hand is. Or just focus in that general area. And as you take a breath in, slowly, imagine your heart getting bigger. And hold it. And as you take your breath out, imagine your heart getting smaller. Let's do it again. Take a breath in through your nose and your heart is expanding. And then out through your mouth, your heart is contracting. And then now do it on your own. 1 breath in through your nose, heart is expanding, and out through your mouth. So I hope that has been helpful for you to just be present, because we need you to be present during this time together. And for those of you who have just joined us, I am Dr. Paulina Van, the author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach for self-care, self-understanding, and inner healing. And I host this show, The Poetry of Healing. And we've just completed a centering exercise to quiet our mind and focus on self for today's show, which is about the realities and remedies for Black Superwoman syndrome. You are just in time to meet our guests, and I'd like to welcome to the show Monique LeNoir. So let me bring her in. Okay, so Monique, welcome. Welcome to the show. And how are you doing today? You're muted, so you look great.
Oh, thank you. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, great. Well, we have a show today. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, whatever you feel um, would be appropriate professionally and personally, so the viewers can get to know you and to connect with you before we start talking about that syndrome. Okay.
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Monique LeNoir, and I always say I'm a Cali girl. I'm from Oakland, California, but I live in the Washington, D.C. area where I've been for several years now since college. I have two sons, two teenagers, and I wear many different hats, but I work as the Assistant Vice President of Communications for the United Negro College Fund. I also run my dad's nonprofit. He has a nonprofit to address health disparities in the Black community called the African American Wellness Project. And I also am a certified health and wellness coach. So I ended up living and being in DC for several years, but again, I'm a California girl at heart, and I'm just happy to be here and talk to you today.
Yes. Well, thank you, Monique. And this topic came up. We were talking with each other, and I am so glad that you brought this topic up of uh, Black Superwoman syndrome. Over the summer, I did a program on rushing and the hurry syndrome, which is really associated with this. And now, viewers, I'll give you that information later in the show. But I always like to begin by unpacking a description of whatever we're talking about, so the viewers and us are on the um, same page. So there are other labels for Black Superwoman syndrome, and one is a strong Black woman syndrome, or SBWS, and that is being an end all be all for everyone in your lives without support or even getting any rest. So these labels are related, but today we're focusing on Black Superwoman syndrome. It's a term that was coined by Dr. Cheryl Woods Giscombe, and she's a powerful sister. And she has nursing training and psych training, and she's done research on how stress and coping influence health disparities in African American women. And so she coined this term 13 years ago. Okay. And so her and her team of researchers identified at least 5 characteristics of Black Superwoman syndrome. So I just want to share them with you before I begin asking Monique to tell her story. So one is the woman has a perceived obligation to present an image of strength. So we're strong no matter what. A perceived obligation to suppress emotions. So no matter what's going on in our lives, we're supposed to have a stiff upper lip and just keep it moving, right? Third, a perceived obligation to resist help or even being vulnerable to others. Sign of weakness. That's what asking for help may seem to be. Fourth is a motivation to succeed despite limited resources. So the Black Superwoman is going to get it done no matter how much she has or how little she has or whatever is going on. And then the last one, which we're really going to focus on later in the show, is prioritizing caregiving of others over self-care. Okay. So Monique, we're just going to talk right now. I'm going to prompt you, but I don't think I need to prompt you too much. Let's start with what makes you a self-identified superwoman? Okay, why do you think that? And you might, if you can, or we'll do it together, integrate some history of the Black woman. I know we have to go back several hundred years, but it's pertinent, right? So go ahead. Yeah.
All right. No, I think when you talk about history of the Black women, we go back to the days of slavery when Black women were expected to, birth children, work in the fields, take care of the family, all kinds of things, and act like everything was okay and just keep it moving without having any time for self-care or having time to take care of themselves. I really think when you talk about a superwoman, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a superwoman, but I think people would see me that way because I have so many things going on. I have a lot of things I'm doing professionally. I'm on a lot of boards. I fit the description of what people would say would be a Black superwoman. But at the end of the day, I think as the older I get, I'm really questioning what that term really means because I'm going to be 55 in about 3 days. And, I'm looking and reflecting on my life and I'm thinking to myself, like, superwoman can mean a lot of different things, but it doesn't have to mean what society tells you that it means. So for me, I think because I have aspired all my life to be successful professionally, that was one of the things that I saw as a superwoman. I started to get into my field right after I graduated from college, worked my way up to my field, just got a promotion to assistant vice president, United Negro College Fund for Communications. And this is what I always thought I wanted. I wanted to move up in my career. I wanted to be successful. And I feel like I am those things. But again, when you say superwoman, it's so many other things. It's about being a mom. It's about being a wife. It's about being a friend. There's so many things that come with that label. And again, I'm starting to really question that myself as I'm getting older and what it is I want and what it is that I feel as a society a superwoman should be and could be.
Well, I have to break here and say, first of all, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. And congratulations on your latest, because it's not the last, but your latest promotion to VP.
Thank you.
And I know this show is about being a Black superwoman, but I think also it begs for another show. What is your secret of staying so young? So we'll have to put that on the burner as well. So Monique, thank you for just opening that door and giving us a glimpse of the landscape of the history of Black women and where this superwoman cape has come from. And it's interesting that you don't perceive yourself as a superwoman, but others do. So can you share with us what behaviors do you manifest that would make others believe you are a superwoman?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I think, it's always getting things done and always being available, always never saying no. Like that's one thing I've learned that I do. I never say no. And I aspire and I'm always motivating others, you know what I mean, to do the same thing. So in my life, I think I grew up with a dad who had 4 daughters. He was very successful. He was a single parent for a while. And he always taught us that hard work and education were the keys to success. And, you have to work hard and that's how you're going to be successful. And so me and all of my sisters, we all ended up going to college and getting our master's degrees and working in our fields and, getting careers and being successful in our careers. So I think, that's one thing that that's termed a superwoman is someone who's successful in their career. But so many things are, I guess, forgotten. And that's one, being a mother, being a mom, being a wife, all of those things play into it. And these days, you're expected to be a superwoman, one, professionally, but also personally. And I think back in the day, maybe when my mom was, raising us, women were not necessarily working as professionals. They may have had jobs, but they were rising up in their careers as much. And also, having careers that required their every, waking moment, to be successful. But it's really hard, I think, or important to figure out how to balance the two, if there is such a thing as a balance. Because the more that older I get, I also realize that what also makes a superwoman is someone who's a great mother, and someone who's able to be there for their kids, and not just be there for their kids, but be present for their kids. And that doesn't mean getting off the phone, getting off the computer, just listening and being there. So I think it encompasses so many different aspects of it, and the label has changed throughout the years.
So you talk about balance, and I think we're so connected. You're reading my mind, because my next question for you is, how does balance, sacrifice fit into this story? So you talked about balance. Does it mean, to balance, you let go of family to address work, or you let go of work to address family? So tell us a little bit more about how you balance, and where does sacrificing and prioritization come into this story?
So I think that, you balance based on your priorities, right? So I feel like, during the pandemic, a lot of people were able to learn and figure out what it is that they wanted to do, that they really wanted to do, what they really liked to do. And life changed completely. And for me, having been always in the office, working all the time, I was able to be home and be with my kids. And I was so happy about the fact that I was able to have quality time with them for the first really time since they were born, because I've worked since they were born. And I feel like, balancing really is based on what your priorities are. I can admit that I don't always do a great job of balancing. I try to do everything, and I try to be all things to all people. I run a team at UNCF. I run a team through my dad's organization. I'm also a health coach, so I'm helping clients and coaching clients every day. And then I have my family. And I do feel like a lot of times things fall by the wayside because there's only so many hours in the day. But what I have been doing more of is figuring out what my priorities are, what's most important to me. And I've just had to let some things go and let some things slide. And I have to be okay with that, because I'm the one that I think will suffer and had been suffering physically by getting physically ill, by trying to be all things to all people and doing so much.
You hit on a lot, Monique, and we're going to talk about the impact of being a superwoman on the mental and physical. But I just want you to talk about sacrifices. What sacrifices have you had to make?
I think I've had to sacrifice really just peace, like my peace, to be honest with you. And I feel like I'm realizing that more and more as I get older, because my life is hectic. Every day is hectic. I don't know what it's going to be like. One day my kids are home, next thing they're not. I have meetings that are popped up on the schedule. And I'm a type of person, I like to be very organized, and I'm very goal driven and results driven. And I feel like, sometimes I try to fit too much in too little bit of a time, because I feel like I can do it all. I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do this. I can go to this event. I can be on this Zoom. I can open up this internship. I'll give you a funny story. I had actually to do an internship welcoming for an organization that I'm the board chair of. But a couple of hours, like an hour later, I had to attend an event as well. So I ended up going downtown, finding a coffee shop, getting it on Zoom at the coffee shop, asking everyone to be quiet while I was speaking on Zoom, and then running across the street to the event. And I made it just in time. But that's just an example of what my day could be like. I may be on a conference call, having to drive my son somewhere. So I feel like now that we're all back in full force with some things being in person, some things being virtual, it can be a lot of chaos sometimes. And I feel like I've had to sacrifice my peace at times. And that's resulted in me having some health issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm amazed that you were able to quiet folks in a coffee shop. They don't know you. But Monique, I think it's just the way you show up, the kindness that exudes from your spirit, and that's a gift.
Thank you.
Let's move on to, how has it impacted you? Because you've already inferred that it has impacted you. So can you tell us, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, how has it impacted your mental health, your physical health, your personal and professional lives?
Yes. So, I think that if you do not stop to slow down and take care of yourself, the universe is going to make it happen for you. And so that's what happened with me. Right before I turned 50, which was I'm about to be 55, so 5 years ago, I realized that I was starting to have a lot of pain in my body, but it was moving around and I didn't quite know where it was coming from. I would just go to lift something and my arm would hurt. I would go to run and my knees would hurt. And I just kind of ignored it. And I just kept going on and going on. But I knew that something was wrong. And so I ended up going to the doctor to find out if they could just test me for everything, because I had ended up in urgent care. One year I ended up in urgent care about 7 times because I was in so much pain. And mind you, I was still going to work. At one point, I was actually on crutches because my knee was swollen, but I was still going to work, acting like everything was okay. And I never stopped taking my kids to school, doing all the things that I normally did. And so finally, I just decided, let me go to the doctor and try to figure out what's going on. And I went to the doctor and got tested for everything, never heard anything. So I thought, well, maybe this is just all in my mind, or maybe I'm just tired and too stressed. And eventually, like a year later, I got a phone call from another doctor, and she said, I've taken over the practice of a previous doctor that you came to. And I went through all the files one by one, and I just came across your file, and I see that you got some tests done. And she said, you need to get to a rheumatologist right away, because I think you might have rheumatoid arthritis. And at that point I did. I went to a rheumatologist, and my levels were so high, they were surprised that I hadn't, ended up in the emergency room long term, because it was so bad. But I did end up having rheumatoid arthritis, which arthritis is brought on by stress. And so that was just one way that it was showing up in my body. And eventually I was able to get on medication, then off medication, because I figured out how my diet was affecting my arthritis. And that's when I decided to start coaching other people, because I know there's so many other moms and women in general and men who are in the same situation. And I wanted to help them figure out how their diet also affects their health. So that was just one way that, my health played a role. Another thing that happened was right before the holidays, I was experiencing a lot of stress through my job and other things. And I developed psoriasis of my hand. And again, ignored it, went home for the holidays, got everything ready for my kids. And then it developed a scalp psoriasis, which was even worse. And I had that for about 2 months at the start of this year. So I think sometimes, like I said, your body is talking to you. And if you don't slow down, even when you know that you should, it's just going to keep getting worse. And then it's going to be to the point where you have to slow down and you have to stop. And that's what happened to me.
Well, Monique, thank you for being so transparent, because I am sure there's someone listening who's been through this, or they know someone who's going through it right now, or they're going through it right now. And so you really have given our viewers a gift. So thank you so much for your transparency. And the things that themes that are in your story is not putting yourself first, ignoring your own needs, and just pushing through. Just keep going no matter what is happening. So thank God that, the new physician who took over the practice took another look at the file and said, hey, girl, you need to get some help.
Yes.
These are just some of the negative impact of being a superwoman, being overwhelmed, overcommitted. And there are many other conditions like obesity. You have an incredible photo. I don't know, I didn't ask you to make it available, but an incredible photo that shows what you looked like.
Yes. And I could tell I was tired. I was run down. My eye had dark circles under my eyes. And that was right before I was officially diagnosed, so.
Yeah. And if someone looked at those two photos, they would think that there was some type of age progression.
Yes.
And once you got better, you looked better, you felt better. But there's so many, and you talk about stress, and the diseases that it causes. And we're not going to go into that now, but definitely stress plays a big part in this. So are there any other mental health or emotional symptoms that you've experienced as a result?
Not as a result. I think one thing I will say is I decided to start therapy at the beginning of this year, because I realized that a lot of things that I was doing and going through were things that happened in my childhood, which they say, I just read something that said, something about your childhood, you ignore it, and then you get to like 50, and then all of a sudden everything comes out. But I know you know this, but when I was 14, I lost my mom to asthma. She had an asthma attack. When I was 16, I lost my grandmother to cancer, who lived with us our whole lives, and she was also our caregiver. And then when I was 18, I lost my younger sister in a car accident. And she was our youngest sister, and she was at college, and that was also very traumatic. So I had several traumatic things happen to me before I turned 21. And I feel like I kind of just said, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay, because I feel like I had to be okay and just keep going on. I've always been the caretaker of my sisters. And so I felt like I have to act like I'm okay because I have no choice. And I feel like that's kind of manifested into my adult life, where when things were going certain ways, I just acted like everything was okay, and I didn't stop. I'm going to get things done regardless, even if I'm tired, even if I'm like not feeling well, even if I'm going through emotional things. So I decided to start therapy because I felt like I needed to really like address some of these things. My dad did get us therapy when all of those things happened, thank God. And we've been able to be productive and have, successful, relationships and lives. But at the same time, it's just so many things that come with that. And I feel like by going through therapy now, it's bringing up a lot of other things, having my own kids and how I, deal with my own kids. And even I'm realizing that I have a syndrome. I don't know what the name of it is, but I stay busy. And I stay busy because I think sometimes if I'm not busy, I might have to think about things and the pain would be too hard. So it's a syndrome where if someone says, hey, can you do this? I'm just going to say yes, because then that's going to make sure that I'm still busy enough to where I don't have to slow down and think about some of the things that happened in my life or are happening or that sort of thing. So anyway, therapy, I definitely recommend it for women. Most companies pay for it through insurance. They provide that. And it just helps to talk to someone who is impartial and who has a different perspective about things. So I've been, going to therapy now since January, and it's actually been really good for me.
I'm so glad that you mentioned therapy, and we're going to talk about some of your other healing strategies. But I do feel it's important that we stop and acknowledge the losses that you had. And the fact is that these were public losses because your family is well known in the Bay Area. Your dad, Dr. Mike LeNoir, is a nationally known expert in asthma, and he had or continues to have that medical moment on radio, so everyone knows him nationally. But in the Bay Area, in the Bay Area, he is beloved still to this day. And you can watch his show on blackdoctor.org as well. So your public grieving, that put another layer on it because you had to appear strong. You weren't processing this, that, oh, I'm public, so I have to appear strong. But it's just that so many eyes were on you. And I remember we have an area in Oakland called Pill Hill, where there were 3 large hospitals on the same hill. And Pill Hill grieved with your family because they were so beloved. So the other thing that you brought up is that kind of stuffing these experiences and keeping busy so you don't have to think about them. But the reality is, you stuff, they're going to come up in another way.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Even with my kids, because they say that I'm, well, you worry about us, Mom, all the time. Like, let us just be, and I feel like a lot of my worry, they say like things that happened to you in your past dictate sometimes how you act in the future. And even letting my son go out the house to hang out with friends, I have a lot of anxiety around that because of all the things that I experienced when I was younger. So it does come out in different ways.
Yeah. So let me just, how can I say, welcome the viewers who are just joining us, because I'm sure some of you have dropped in as we were talking. And this show is all about Black Superwoman syndrome. And we've talked about our guest, Monique LeNoir. I'm thinking about there are 5 beautiful women in the immediate family. Anyway, Monique LeNoir has shared her experiences of what are demonstrating Black Superwoman syndrome experiences. She's talked about, what's the downside and the effect it has had on her physically, mentally. And so we're moving on to healing strategies that you've used in the past. But before we do that, I want to talk about benefits, because there's always a yin and a yang, right? Mm-hmm. And so what do you see as a benefit of you being a superwoman, even though that's not your label?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are a lot of benefits. Like, I have a really strong social circle. I have lots of great friends. And even my jobs, like, I have amazing jobs, working at United Negro College Fund. I get to meet everyone, Kevin Hart, Robert Smith, who paid off the loans of the students from Morehouse. We work with everyone at UNCF. We have awesome events. So my job is amazing. I get to help students get through to and through college. I'm an HBCU graduate. I attended Howard University undergrad. I went to American for grad school, but I did go to Howard University undergrad. So I'm an HBCU graduate. So I get to give back to HBCUs as well through that job. Through working with my dad, we're working to address health disparities, and we're making a difference in the African-American community to alleviate health issues. And then I love my health coaching business as well, because I get to meet amazing people, have a great community, and I love waking up and seeing messages from my clients having lost weight and feeling good about themselves. So all of the jobs that I do, I decided a long time ago that whatever I did, it was going to be something that made a difference. So place where I've worked since I pretty much got out of college have been nonprofits and places where I knew that what I was doing was making a difference. So those are all really great benefits, to what I'm able to do in my career. And then personally, I love having my family. I have a great family. I have a twin sister or younger sister as well. I'm very close to my family and my kids. I always say the hardest and most rewarding job I have is being a mother. So yeah, I mean, everything has its downside, but I wouldn't have it any other way. This is all what I asked for and what I wanted. And it's really just learning how to manage it and also say no to things that really aren't going to serve me and things that I don't need to be doing.
Well, the other thing that I heard that you might not have mentioned is that it can contribute to resilience, because you wouldn't be able to do all these things if you weren't able to bounce back whenever you were challenged or knocked down, or you get right back up and you don't lose a step. Okay, so being a superwoman really can have a benefit during tough times, and it strengthens our muscles, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Right. So I'm going to have you read my poem choices, because it's a nice lead in into your healing strategy. So, Monique is going to read from my book, Regala Healing, and I'll, there it is, and you'll have information on how to get it at the end of the show. But right now, would you read choices?
Sure. I love this book, and I've read most of the poems, and this one just really spoke to me, and I think it'll speak to a lot of women, especially as you get older. I mean, 55 is a milestone birthday, and it makes you reflect on your life. So I really liked this poem choices. I get to choose how I live each day. I get to choose my yearning to pray. I get to choose what holds my attention. I get to choose to let go of perfection. I get to choose how bright my light shines. I get to choose my life's guidelines. I get to choose love and laughter. I get to choose the moments after. I get to choose to be kind. I get to choose the moments of forgiveness I find. I get to choose the ambience of my fate. I get to choose patience and wait. I get to choose taking setbacks in stride. I get to choose the Holy Spirit as my guide.
Beautifully read. Thank you. Thank you. So as you have choices on how you mitigate these behaviors, right? Share some of your healing strategies with us.
Sure. So I think I mentioned one of them, which is therapy. I think I encourage everyone, if you're going through something, or even if you're not, to maybe investigate into therapy and just see how that might be able to help you. Another thing that I practice a lot is self-care, because I realized when I was broken down and I was in urgent care and I was on crutches that, especially your job is going to replace you in a couple of days, and I realized that I had to make myself a priority. So I do work out a lot. I love to walk. I walk every day. I even walk in between my work meetings, because I typically have about 6 or 7 meetings a day, starting at 9, ending around 6 or 7. So I walk every day. I recently started doing hot yoga, which I love, yin yoga, which is amazing. And then I also started a walking group, because I feel like it's really important to build community. Started with 2 people, and now we've grown to about 15 or 16 women, and we walk every Sunday morning at 7:30. And it's such a great space to talk about, our kids, about our careers, about challenges. So we do that every Sunday as well. And then I decided to start paying it forward by coaching other people to get healthy, because I feel like you should pay it forward. And I've been working as a certified health coach, which really is my true passion. I love all of my other jobs, but this is really something that I feel like I found my passion at a later stage of my life, because I love to help other women become the best version of themselves. And that starts with being healthy, and that starts with putting yourself first, looking at your diet, looking at your lifestyle, and figuring out how you can change that so that you can be the best person you can be for yourself and for your family.
So we'll drop in the chat information about Monique's walking group and health coaching business. Okay. All right. So you talked about getting professional help, definitely self-care. What do you think about, or do you think, or how do you help women get over this thought? When I take time for myself, I feel guilty.
That was me. I mean, that was really me. I was feeling like I couldn't stop doing all the things that I was doing because someone or something would suffer for it. And I was the one who ended up suffering for it. So I feel like you have to put yourself first, or you can't be any good to anyone else. And that's what I learned when I was broken down those years ago. And then recently during the holidays that, you really don't have a choice if you want to be able to do anything in your life, especially achieve your dreams. And like after all, we all want to achieve our dreams and also be the best person that we can be. So really, I think self-care is a requirement. It's not an optional. And we all, as Black women, I know we feel like we have to put ourselves on the back burner, but more and more I'm realizing, at least for in my life, and is that it has to be the number one thing, and some things are just going to have to take a back seat, and other things you're going to have to let go of, things that are not serving you.
Absolutely. So the other thing, which we didn't call out, but we're doing, and that's you're speaking up. You're speaking up, and that's another healing strategy, because you make it come to your awareness. When you talk about it, it becomes real. So thank you so much for that. Now, also, eating properly and, exercising, you mentioned. Another thing that Dr. Woods Giscombe, who coined the phrase Black Superwoman syndrome, she promotes mindfulness as an approach to mitigating this syndrome. And she's conducted a number of studies around benefits of mindfulness for stress-related health disparities among underserved populations. And because mindfulness is going to emphasize non-judgmental awareness, being kind to yourself with self-compassion, it's calming. And so as a part of this show, I'd like to take you through a mindfulness meditation. And it's going to take about 3 minutes. And I've adapted it from mindful.org. Those of you who've been with me know I love mindful.org. And it's by Shalini Bal-Mill. And so I'll drop that into the chat as well. But I'm going to invite you right now to just, wherever you are in your space, sitting or lying, to join us in this practice. And it can be done while you're sitting, lying, standing, walking. So wherever you are. And also, You can also do this practice outside. How wonderful would it be to be able to do it outside as well? Some of you may be viewing this from outside, so you have that benefit right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to I invite you to lower your gaze or close your eyes. And what we're going to do is to tune into our senses, okay? So again, this is going to take about 2 to 3 minutes. So we're going to start with the sense of touch, okay? Feel any sensations of touch in your feet and the contact that they may have with the floor. And if you're, wearing shoes or boots or other forms of footwear, can you feel that footwear? Just focus so you can feel how your feet feel. If you're barefoot, can you feel the air touching your skin? Where else in your body can you feel the air touching your skin? So just tune into the movement. It may be hot air. It may be cool air from a fan. It may be the breeze. Or it may just be stagnant hot air. But what do you feel? Next, we're going to move our attention to sound. And sound can be a meditation in itself. And so note how many sounds that you hear. Okay. Some may be pleasant. Some may be kind of annoying. And some may just be neutral. They're just there. Okay. You may discover that your mind has wandered, and that's natural. So as soon as you notice that, return to your sense of sound and receive those sounds with kindness. Now we're going to notice the scents around you. If you're indoors, you may discover very different scents than what you find in your office or other places. Receive any scents, or there may be no scents that you pick up, no aromas. And as you refine your ability to smell, you may start to uncover newer scents that you had not noticed earlier. Maybe they're fresher, sweeter, tangy. Just stay here for a few moments. Just take in the scents. Now, lastly, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes and then look at an object in front of you or to the side of you with fresh eyes, without getting lost in labels or judgments. Just see that object as if you're looking at it for the very first time. You're going to note the textures and the colors, the lightness, the darkness. And you can make note of how it feels to give your full attention to your senses. And I'm going to ask you to revisit at least this part of the show and try doing this in different places and see how more in tune you are with your own body. And so I'd like you to take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out as we end this mindful practice. And I'm going to ask Monique at this time we're getting ready to close. And I'd just like her to share with us maybe 2 or 3 tips that you'd like to leave our viewers with. and then read the beautiful poem that
Sure.
you identified. Thank you.
Sure. So I think the 3 tips that I would like to leave everyone with is 1, it's not selfish to put yourself first. 2, find your passion, because when you find your passion, nothing ever seems difficult. It doesn't feel like work. It just brings you so much joy. So find your passion no matter how old you are. And 3, try to become the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like. It may not be easy. You may have to revisit some difficult things. You may have to change some of your behaviors and patterns, but it's never too late to really just become the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So those are the things I would like to leave. And then I found this one poem that I think speaks to a lot of us, and I wanted to share it for all those Black women out there who are dealing with some of these things, who are superwomen, who want to be a superwoman, or who just, want to have some community. I wanted to read this one poem. It says, "You are amazing, as you are, stronger than you know, more beautiful than you think, worthier than you believe, more loved than you can ever imagine. Passionate about making a difference, fiery when protecting those you love, learning, growing, not alone, warm, giving, generous, quirky, sexy, funny, smart, flawed, whole, scared, brave, and so, so much more. Be strong, be confident, be you."
Well, I am lost for words of how, let me just take that out, how enriching this time has been with you, Monique. You have given us such gems and riches to make our lives better. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for the gifts that you are giving others. And even though you don't embrace the label of being a superwoman, you are a superwoman and you're doing it well.
Thank you so much, as you are as well. And so great to be here. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So we're going to wrap up the show now. We usually have a 30-minute show, but as you can see, we've gone over, but we needed to go over. So I just ask that you join me every first and third Sundays at 9 o'clock Pacific time right here on blackdoctor.org. We ask that you like and share this program because we know you know a superwoman who could use this information. Please leave comments and questions because Monique and I will respond to them. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe so you'll know when new program is available. I'm going to ask you to visit my site, regalahealing.com, for more healing information and self-care work and resources. And I just want to thank you for joining Monique and I today. And we both wish you love and light until we see you again. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you.